welcome to Stafford City Council. Reminder, if you have a cell phone, would you mute it or turn it off? It's totally up to you, and we have a full quorum today. Our Pledge of Allegiance is going to be offered by our Vice Mayor, Richard Ortega, followed by the invocation, which is going to be offered by Councilman Mike Andazola. Would you stand for both, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together as a family, Lord, as we serve this great community as leaders, and we thank you for every day what you bestowed upon us with our various committees in our city, Lord. We ask you to please bless our manager, our clerk, our department heads, and our employees, Lord. We ask you to please just grant them the guidance that they need, Heavenly Father. And we also thank you for this great community that we all serve in and the people that we serve. We ask you to please bless each one of us up here tonight making a decision in your name, Heavenly Father. We ask for special prayers amongst our mayor and everyone else who's having difficulties at this time, and just give them light at this time, Heavenly Father. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. That's going to bring us, but before I do that, I just want to congratulate Danielle. It was an epic wedding. Got to view it all online, so congratulations. Our public hearing, item 7, we're going to open it up, and first one will be, the item will be Copper Steer Steakhouse liquor license. So once again, this is a public hearing. B, do you want to kind of give us a little rundown?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm presenting a public hearing for a liquor license that was received by the Blaze 3 Enterprises LLC from Parish El Blasius for the Copper Steer Steakhouse located at 1206 East US Highway 70. We have posted the announcement at the Copper Steer, and it's open for any public comment. Parish will be taking over the restaurant since the previous owner has passed away. He's taking the liquor license back into his name. So we have to do the public hearing and the process to put it back into his name.
So at this time, this is a public hearing. Anybody up here have anything? Okay, let's go on to item 7.2. I'm sorry, this is Jamie's project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a variance request and will be heard as your entity sitting as the Board of Adjustment. This is a request by Mr. Blake for the Board of Adjustment to approve a variance request to encroach into the required side setback by constructing a wall on a non-conforming structure for storage. Planning and Community Development Department is in receipt of a variance application from Mr. Blake. The applicant has received a notice from the neighborhood officer regarding the accumulation of appliances on his property. Mr. Blake does not have a current City of Safford home occupation permit or a business license. Following that is the non-conforming building and uses area of our code. And then on the second page, C, you will see a variance shall not be authorized unless the Board of Adjustment shall find sufficient evidence that, number 1, having to adhere strictly to the letter of this title will cause difficulties and hardships upon the petitioner, which are unnecessary in order to carry out the purpose of this title. Number 2, special circumstances are attached to the property covered by the same application that do not apply to other properties in the same zone. Number 3, that because of said special circumstances, property covered by the application is deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same zone, and that the granting of the variance is essential to the enjoyment of property possessed by the other properties in the same zone. Number 4, the difficulties and hardships were not created by any act of the applicant subsequent to the effective date of the regulation appealed from. Mr. Blake has been provided with this information and his documentation is attached. We have met to discuss his findings and he will be presenting his answers to you this evening. Notification was mailed to the neighbors on October 23rd. Staff has had no response. A notice was also posted on the property on October 23rd and was published in the newspaper October 25th. Staff's recommendation is that the Board of Adjustment deny a variance from zoning ordinance section 17.12.250, finding it does not meet the evidence requirements in section 17.88.040C, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1, adhering to the same requirements as other properties in the area will not cause unnecessary hardships for Mr. Blake. Number 2, this property does not have any special circumstances that do not apply to others in the area. Number 3, Mr. Blake has not been deprived of privileges possessed by other properties in the same area. Number 4, Mr. Blake's collection of appliances has caused his storage issues. This is a residence and as such is not designed to house commercial outdoor storage. And I will share some photos of the area that are also in your packet. And you can see those on your screen. Maybe. There we go. Here's a map of the area. Mr. Blake's house is outlined in blue, and you'll see that he has a corner lot on 11th and 7th. These are some of the storage issues that encroach onto the city right-of-way, and the tin structure is the structure that he would like to enclose. This is another view from the sidewalk, and to show the tin structure that he would like to enclose to make permanent storage. And then there's another view of the amount of items that would need to be enclosed for storage of this nature to be effective. And with that, I will stand for questions, and Mr. Blake is here this evening.
Mr. Blake, would you like to come up and address the council at this time? Pass them all down.
Yes, my mess is quite well known, but it is being worked on. Most of that stuff there in the carport has been taken care of. There was a trash trailer there in her picture. Anyway, but I am working on that stuff, the stuff under the awning and the stuff in the carport. It's not going fast, but I'm working on it. But what I really have problem with is trying to enclose that awning. My father, over 55 years ago, I think tried the same thing because those brackets on the uprights, I don't know if you got to those, did they get passed down?
The mayor has it now, sir.
Anyway, those are from 55 years ago when my father tried to do the same thing I'm trying to do, and that's enclose that awning area. But because of a few problems in the code, it didn't happen then, and it's trying not to happen now. Could I read the sections under the accessory building part of the code and just explain what I see as the problem. There's, well, only a couple of problems that couldn't be taken care of. But anyway, under accessory buildings, number 1, accessory buildings constructed of metal, wood, and block with a roof area exceeding 180 feet may be built in the required rear yard, but such accessory buildings shall not occupy more than 30% of the required rear yard. I don't think that's been a problem. Sections 1786, 01 and 02 talk about setback and separation requirements, which the setback would never work because they want 15 feet of setback, and even the original building in back of the awning was only 10 foot when it was built. So that's one that's not gonna ever get fixed. Number 2, metal accessory buildings may be built on the property line, which was another problem that they said my building was. It, if, well, it says provided the roof area does not exceed 120 square feet. My 2/3 of that, I was wanting to enclose the whole thing, but I talked to my brother and he says, well, you don't want to shut off your window there, so I want to only do 2/3 of that area, which would be just 155 square foot, which is only 35 square foot more than 120 maximum square footage in that section. And then there's only three other sections that 3, 5, and 6 are not a problem. But 5, or is it 4? 4 is the same problem as I pointed out in number 1, is that it needs a setback supposedly of 15 feet, which it's never going to happen. But if it was only 120 square foot, which is 10 by 12, it would be legal. So I don't understand why it is such a big problem, but all I could get from Jaime and Mr. Bell was that we would have to put a wall or a fence of a maximum of 6 feet, which I put up some tin there to show the big difference. And I do need something enclosed that I can, I've made designs to seal it roof-wise and underneath the bottom wood run there so that I won't be getting a lot of dust and dirt in there and water, which I would be getting with a 6-foot. Also, I have had a problem with feral cats, which about everybody over in that area has. And from what the folks that are in charge of that say everybody seems to have, and they have been breeding in that area, and I would like to shut it off for that reason also.
Mr. Blake,
The-
can I interrupt you for a second?
Go ahead.
The, one of the areas that is concern of mine is that it's, if I'm understanding this property correct, this is a residential property, correct?
Excuse me?
This is a residential property, correct?
Yes, it's my property.
And what, you call 11th, that's the front of the property, correct? Would be your front of your house, correct?
I'm on,
Meaning it's
I'm
facing
on,
11th?
it's actually on 11th Street,
Okay.
yes.
So the 7th is your side street, correct?
That's a side street.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to cut you short at all. We're the Board of Adjustments here to either grant the approval or, you know, agree to what the, Planning and Zoning has recommended. The way I look at it, your porch is built on the property line, probably overhangs the property line a little bit. Do you agree with that statement or not?
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, that awning is built, well, Jaime said it's right at it. According to what, my older property seems to have a little less property line than, or more property line than the folks up the street, because they were built later,
Okay.
the
Because, Mr. Blake,
fence line and such.
what I would be in favor of, asking for a variance, but I think you don't have to have a variance to put up a 6-foot fence and then bring it across there and then put some slats in it, you know, so that, how can I say
Well,
this respectably?
that would keep
that
the
city
cats
doesn't-
out, but they wouldn't keep the dust and dirt
Yeah.
and rain from blowing in.
And I totally understand your situation, and I'm seeing it and stuff, but this, and please, just understand what I'm trying to say here is, we're in the process, and I wanna ask you, what can the city do to help you if we were to, you know, like, could we bring a Connex box, or not a Connex box, but a dumpster somewhere, and maybe that would help to get the place picked up a little bit, to help satisfy the needs of the city. Because
Well-
Mr. Blake, I think if I grant the okay to enclose this, I'm afraid I'm just gonna create a headache from here on. And I don't wanna open up a Pandora's box, but I do wanna listen to you. I want you to be heard.
Well, much of that in the carport was yard sale stuff from my father's death and my mother's death, and, you know, I got the stuff, and I haven't had that many yard sales. And in fact, I even had a lady that I was set up to do some yard sales, and I called her to start, and she says she's in a wheelchair, so it's not gonna happen that way. Anyway, most of those appliances stuff I had picked up here and there and was trying to sell them. I did sell and get rid of about 4 of them. So they're not there. I am working on it. Like I say, it's just gonna take a while, and Anyway, but my biggest problem is getting this storage room built, if at all possible.
Do you think that it would possibly be a little cheaper for you to enclose the carport? Then that would create you a storage area to where you could put your stuff in that?
No, I'm trying to to clean out that storage. I mean, that, yeah.
Anybody?
I
wanna-
just don't quite understand why, 35 square foot is gonna keep me from being in code.
Jamie, is that the only hang-up, the 35 square foot, or is it also?
That's the only thing I
height
see,
of
and
the-
I did not talk to Jamie or Jaime, but what do you think?
Yes, Councilman Himhill and Mayor. So there are a few issues with the project, and we've offered the 6-foot fence solution, because he can build that on the property line. And as an individual having a code case, he would get first on the list for that new trailer program that we'll be rolling out. And we do have the trailer on property now. We're getting it fitted out with tools. And closing in the carport area could be an option as well. And code enforcement cases, as long as there is progress, they don't go any further. So Andrew meets with them regularly. So this has been a few months of working and trying to find a solution that works for everyone. And so, Mayor and Councilman Hempel, back to your question, there's a few issues. There's the non-conforming structure, and there's the setback as well.
Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Vice
You
Mayor.
know, I'd just like to just make one comment. I think the city is making an effort to beautify our city. And I think that's very important, and I kind of feel, we start making too many exceptions for this, that, and the other, we're gonna be defeating the whole thing. That's my take on it.
I appreciate that.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilman Bieber.
I feel for Mr. Blake. I don't feel like he met the criteria for a variance in that it could be done within the rules, just like it is, without a variance. I don't know that, it's not gonna be as easy as what he wants to do, but I think that, and I don't know, I didn't get out of the truck and look close, but I think if that 6-foot wall, I think the pitch of the roof could be increased and come down to the top of the wall. Would that satisfy the cat part of it, if the roof were steeper? Or is that just something you don't wanna mess with? or-
That would be a little bit difficult to
Well, I just
pull
see
that
that,
off, but
this
And I don't know that-
basically, this variance basically says that
Jamie would like it
there's
either.
no other way to go, and I see a couple ways to fix it without going through the variance, so maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture.
Well, Councilman McGoy, I believe that, the lean-to actually doesn't even meet requirements from the city code, because that's on the property line. So I would think that 50 years ago, when this was constructed, that it was, maybe we didn't have our city codes at that time, but, because that is definitely, like, right up on the property line. And I'm afraid that by him adjusting the pitch of that, would that then say that it's a, we get
Well,
into.
I think the rules still apply. You have to get down to that square footage that we talked about in order for the line that says he can build on the property line to apply, but I think there's a way to get him what he wants within his yard and not go over the maximum allowable space. Like I said, it's not gonna be as simple as what he wants to do, but it is doable. And I don't know if that's how the wording of the variance applies to him, but it does say something about unnecessary hardship, and I don't know how you measure that, but.
Well, I wouldn't be able to afford it if I didn't have the stuff I've scrounged so far over the last 20 years to build it, and it'll probably take me a little bit more, and I don't know that, yeah, I can afford to do that. I don't know. And I don't know, I haven't looked at it close enough to even think about lowering the roof. So,
Jamie, would we be within code to put a 6-foot, I'm just hypothetical, and I don't know if we should be going on hypothetical, but hypothetical. We put a 6-foot block wall across there, and we lowered that awning down on top of the block. Is that acceptable for the city codes?
Yes, Mayor, so the block wall would be fine, and then I would refer to Mr. Henry to see if the watershed onto the sidewalk would be an issue for Public Works, or if the change of pitch, as long as it didn't overhang, with it only being 6 feet tall, people could injure themselves on the tin. So that would be something we could discuss with Mr. Henry about the watershed and the height
A gutter would
and the
fix that.
projection. But a 6-foot block fence could be constructed without any issue.
So you understand, Mr. Blake, that on properties, you're supposed to control your own watershed. You know, we're not to dump onto the city from a roof line or whatever. We're not to dump that onto the city lawns. So, I mean, but I agree with Councilman McGoy, there's opportunity to do something, and it might not fit the budget that's at hand. But I'm willing for us to help you as far as the city goes, as what Jamie explained a little bit ago about the trailer and stuff like that, and then maybe you could pull some church help to help come and pick up that area a little bit, and then help
well,
relieve some of your pressure there.
I say I've been working on it, but not much as I would have been if things hadn't come to a screeching halt.
I understand.
Is there any way we can get around this 120 square foot maximum?
Yes, Mayor and Council, that would be a variance as well. So any of these areas of the code, I don't have the authority to use my discretion. That would be a Board of Adjustment variance item. And he's referring to metal accessory buildings on the property line, provided it does not exceed 120 square feet. So he could, we could work with that. It would be a variance as well for the Board of Adjustment.
So, Jamie, I might not have been able to hear very good. Explain to me what he's asking for. 35 square feet, 120 square foot, what's he asking for?
Well, the maximum is not to exceed 120 square foot. In order to enclose it and use the uprights that I've got, it would only be another 35 square foot. You understand?
Oh, so it'd be 120 plus the 35? Yeah, so you'd definitely have to have a variance on that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, his calculations here are 155 square feet, and so he would be over code by 35 square feet.
Yes, and I also, that other photo of the opposite end of 11th Street block, that looks like it's not within code. I don't know how that came about, and Jamie wouldn't either, but
Are you talking about that other picture that you showed us from,
Yeah.
What's that?
yeah,
8,
711 11th
And
Street.
what were you really wanting to point out on that one?
Just that in the variance stuff, it says, you know, why did they get by the variance and I didn't? I mean, get by the code and I didn't, is what it amounts to. Did you see that picture? No, I don't think you did. Okay, I gave it to them.
No, that was added on. That's, it was definitely done years ago, and that's
Well-
why I think our building department needs to be open Monday through Saturday. Stop the Wildcat building, but I don't mean any disrespect, Mr. Blake, at all. I'm not.
Anyway, that's about all I have to say. I don't know what you guys are able to do for me, but I can't get anywhere by myself.
Okay, so as far as I'm understanding, this is for information and discussion only for tonight.
Hmm.
And so, as far as I'm understanding, we have nothing to act on. Am I correct, Jamie?
Mr. Mayor and council members, this is a request for the Board of Adjustment to approve or deny a variance request.
This doesn't say that.
Yeah. Our
The
notes,
agenda-
our notes just says that there's no action item, so,
Let me check the agenda.
but it does in the wording, so. I just wanna make sure. Bill, are you still on there?
I am. I have a question for Jamie. Have we moved away from a variance for the encroachment, and we're moving to a different variance, and that is the roof size? Are we doing a different variance?
That would have to be applied for.
No, sir, we are not.
What are we granting a variance to, encroachment or the size of the roof?
To approve a variance request to encroach into the required side setback by constructing a wall on a non-conforming structure for storage.
So, Mr. Mayor, what you're zoning, what Jamie has done, she's identified the factors, and then you as the Board of Adjustment have to make a decision whether or not he can be granted a variance. And what your staff has concluded is that he can't because of the conditions. Now, some of you have a concern. We could ask staff to look at it further. But I think given that the internal language in this agenda item said approval, I think the reading public, it should have said action, it doesn't. And if that causes any of you pause, we could bring this back at a different council meeting. But I think a fair reading of the agenda item shows it was intended for a decision.
Okay, so
But you have to decide if you agree with staff.
Okay, so Bill, I have one other question for you. So he's asked for a different request for variance. Will that have to be brought back at a different time? Because this one here is for encroachment, the other one is for an extended 35 feet onto the existing structure, which is 120 square foot in our code. So would that variance have to come back at a Board of Adjustments at a different hearing?
Mr. Mayor, that's why I asked the question of Jamie if we truly had moved to a second variance, and I think I heard him suggest that. Here's the issue, is your staff needs to, and you need to consider the request and consider whether or not the request meets the conditions for a variance. We haven't looked at that, and so if truly that's what the applicant wants to do, if truly he's willing to acknowledge that he has not met the conditions for an encroachment, and is now requesting a variance for a different limitation, that is the size of the roof, I think it'd be premature to do that tonight, and Jamie would have to come back with recommendations as to the size of the roof.
Okay. And so, Bill, you would be okay with us moving on an action item on this, even though it doesn't say action, but it does say it in our language that we could do a request to, approval of the variance request to encroach. You feel comfortable enough with the language without the action
Yes.
shown?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes, sir. I would not feel comfortable. I would not feel comfortable if you were to decide a variance based on the roof. I do feel comfortable on the encroachment.
Okay, all right, thank you, Bill. With that, do we have anything further from the council? Mr. Blake, I couldn't approve this variance tonight. I would like to see what you have, for the other one to come back. I wanna work with you as far as the city's concerned, like what can we do to help? I think, to be honest with you, Mr. Blake, if we had that place kind of cleaned up and picked up, I don't think that should have been on the radar.
Yeah. I'm not understanding what encroachment we're talking
Jamie, could you
about.
better define that for all of us, please?
Yes, Mayor and Council and Mr. Blake, an encroachment in this case is encroaching into the required setback. So, for visual aid, here's Mr. Blake's property, here's the city property. There's a required side setback. His building is within that required side setback. And so it's already non-conforming, there's no issue with that. He just can't expand or enlarge it. And he could build a 6-foot fence on this property line without regard to that setback.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion for this variance request by Mr. Blake.
On the one we talked about,
Yes, it's only it's this one, it's not, he has to come back on a separate
Okay.
variance for the extra 35 foot.
well then I will move that we deny the variance request.
I have a motion to deny the variance.
Second.
We have a second, a motion and a second by Councilman McCoy. Any more discussion on this variance? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Blake, once again, it's not the end. You can still continue to work with the city and try to come away with the other one variance that you had mentioned tonight, and work with Jamie on that one, or Jaime, or whoever that you need to. And then I think soon we'll have our trailer and things ready to go, and I know that there's scouts and everybody else that are active in the community that would like to help, and if you see you need a little bit of help from that, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I think the city would help you out on this, because as the vice mayor said, our goals is to start beautifying the city as a whole. And I'm not saying that your place is by any means a distraction, but we want to help if we can. Okay, so please don't think this is the end. You still have another opportunity. It just takes a little bit longer. Sometimes we have to go around the mulberry bush a couple of times, but then we'll get what we need. So I appreciate you coming and speaking with us tonight.
I appreciate you fellows, and Jamie.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, right here, boss. Right here. And I see what you were trying to do. You were showing me on that. I understand that 100%. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 8.1.
Close the hearing?
Huh?
Close
Do we
the
need-
hearing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We need to go ahead and close our public hearing and reconvene into our regular meeting. Do you need to read anything, B, on any of that? Okay. That brings us now to item 8.1, which is Copper Steer Steakhouse liquor license fee.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and City Council to recommend approval to the State of Arizona Liquor Board of Liquor License regarding an owner transfer for a Series 6 bar application submitted by Parrish L. Glacias on behalf of Blaze Enterprise LLC for the Copper Steer Steakhouse located at 1206 East US Highway 70 in Saffron, Arizona. This is the application that we received here. We had a public hearing tonight, no comments were made. So we were recommending for approval to the state.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman McGoy and a second by Councilman Mike Anazola. And any more discussion on this item? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to item 8.2, minutes. Request Mayor and Council to review and approve the October 23rd minutes. B. Is that okay, B, if I call you B?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, this is a request for Mayor and City Council to review and approve the minutes for October 23rd, 2023 council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, Councilman McGoy, and a second by Councilman Mike Anazola to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Disbursement of the city funds, which is item 8.3, charitable or nonprofit organization to award. Mr. Hoschel?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, staff is seeking a decision from the Mayor and City Council regarding the application submitted through the city's disbursement of funds to charitable and nonprofit organizations program. During the FY 2024 budget process, the Mayor and City Council discussed the opportunity for nonprofit and charitable organizations to apply for city funds. Staff brought the idea of creating an application process for these entities. The Mayor and City Council approved the budget of $50,000 in FY 2024 for nonprofit and charitable organizations to solicit through an application process City of Safford donations. Staff advertised and opened a submission window of 1 month, September 5th through October 5th. Staff has collected and organized the submitted applications. On October 23rd, City Council had a work session in which the applications were discussed. The staff received 5 applications during the submission window. The 5 applications were reviewed for completeness and compiled into a table. The 5 applicants are as follows: SECUS, the Women's Club of Safford, Graham County Substance Abuse Coalition, St. Vincent de Paul, St. Rosa of Lima, Safford Conference, Gila Valley Arts Council. The total amount requested for each is in the attached table, and the total amount requested for all the applicants combined is $24,745.
Mayor, I wish to recuse myself due to the fact I'm president of SECUS. I will be stepping up today.
Okay. Matt, would you explain to me a little bit of the process of this? Like, just wanting to understand a little bit, was this mainly to benefit City of Safford applicants, or was this, I mean, it's open to everybody, and so I'm just, I'd like to have a little bit of clarification, please.
Certainly. Discussions that we had also in the council meeting, or the work session, we talked about similar things. One of the main points that we talked about was on the guidelines. It says that organizations applying for the funds must be providing services or activities in Safford. Not saying specifically that they were Safford-based, but as long as they were providing services or activities in Safford. Additionally, the program was advertised in multiple different locations, and then along with that, myself and the city manager went to at least one meeting of nonprofit organizations where we discussed this program.
Mayor, is there anything specifically you're seeking?
No, I'm just wanting a little, just wanted some clarification, like, so I wanted to make sure that the Graham County Substance Abuse Coalition is not part of the rehab facility, which we are already, giving to, correct? By paying don't we help pay the utilities on that facility?
I don't believe that we do.
No?
No.
So, but the Graham County Substance Abuse Coalition is the actual coalition as a whole, and it doesn't specifically go to a rehab facility, correct?
They made specific application. I don't remember exactly what the verbiage was on that one, but let me see if we can pull it up. Yeah, so they're looking to partner with, so it says construction, education materials, the overall goal. So this particular application, I believe, is for the construction of a facility that's $700,000 when it's complete.
Okay. So it's for probably more than likely the woman's facility that's next door.
Correct.
The-
So, again, it's one of those, so this is part of that vetting process, right? So we bring the applications and we see what they apply to, and if this dovetails with what you're trying to do in terms of the types of applications that are being made, service populations that are being addressed, right? So not every single applicant has to get funded. And so I'm not saying don't fund this one, I'm just saying that the whole idea of having the application and having the narratives are there exactly what you're doing, ask those questions and then look at what's being applied for and then consider whether or not the application is going to be helpful. So in the grand scheme of things, if you're building a facility for $700,000, I'm not sure what the timeline is on that or how much $5,000 helps. Maybe it does. But again, all of that information is providing a context in which you can look at this and say, do we feel that this would be a help in that situation, right? So again, some get funded, some don't, but it's the idea is that you're understanding that context and then deciding appropriately for you.
And Mayor, in their application letter, specifically, it says that it's for the Caring Hearts project, which is, like you said, it's a home for females who have just completed rehabilitation.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think too, we're working through this kind of for the first time. So I realize that we're gonna fine tune it as we go, get a little bit better at the process, but, I'd be hard pressed when our applicants aren't even half of the figure that we established. I realize we still have the decision on each of them individually, but, I'd have a hard time denying any of the 5, with that in mind. And then if we want to tweak the service area, currently it just says that it serves Safford residents, not exclusively, just as long as it does, correct?
That is correct.
And I think that's, gives us a broader appeal, so even if you may be located outside, as long as you're serving a population within the city, then I think it is beneficial to the city, and that's kind of the goal.
And I think we'll wind up at a point where we have to make some tough decisions on who to support and who not to. But this first year with the quantity that we have, I'd be good with supporting all of them.
So I kind of understand that's your motion? Okay.
And also to your point, Mayor, Councilman Hemphill, when we did have the work session, we did take some of those points that were addressed. I believe that Councilman Arbizo had some very good points as well, and so we did take those, and during the budget process, when we bring this back, again, we'll bring up those points that were addressed to see if council would like to change the program in its current state.
All right, so right now on the floor, we have a motion to approve
Second.
the 5, and we have a second by Vice Mayor Richard Ortega. Any more discussion on this item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're talking about these 5 tonight, and they achieved 24,000 out of 50,000
Correct.
for these 5. There's still others that we have on the board.
48,000.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, are you talking about the ones we currently have in our budget?
Yes,
You're correct, yes.
so that gets us to 48,000 that what we're actually going out with right now.
Plus 48,000. So
Plus.
on top of the 24,000 that we have in here, there's also the Arizona Community Foundation for 17.5. There's the Safe House, I think, for 7,000. And if I get these numbers wrong, I'm just trying to go off the top of my head. And there's a couple other, the Boys and Girls Club, we do in kind.
But some of those don't come to us annually.
Those come through the budget process in council's current budget.
So Mayor Councilman Lopez, currently in the budget, what we counted as the 48,000 is anything that's receiving an actual payout. So any of the in-kind stuff like utilities or rent is not part of that. So the 48,000 is literally cash that we already give to existing 501c3s. We added another 50,000 to the budget in order to expand that program to see what kind of a response we would get. As part of the work session process, we discussed the possibility that going forward, that having gone through this hybrid process and now having an opportunity going into the budget, we may combine the two into one and then revisit some of the parameters of the application process and then get everything making application at the same time. And that's a possibility that we could do moving forward. So because of the truncated timeframes and the fact that we were late in the cycle, we did, in addition to those that were already in there, we grandfathered the 48,000 that we already pay out in cash. We gave the opportunity for the additional 50. Now, as we go forward, we can revisit this both in terms of, do we want everybody on an application process? And if so, do we want to tweak the application so that we can raise the limit that would allow for, say, the Arizona Community Foundation, when you give them 17.5, you need a higher limit in order to keep them there and have them be part of that process. You may want to fine tune the types of things you'll fund. Maybe it's, based on, you have to show the wherewithal to complete a project, and the money's given will allow you to finish that project because you have other sources, et cetera. So the idea would be that once we get through this process, we can revisit this whole program in its entirety and see if we want to make any changes, whether it be the cycle itself or the parameters that guide it.
That's kind of what I'm asking. These people had to apply and
Yes.
account for money's coming in, money's going out, and stuff that I get asked about in the public, well, what's going on there? So these other places will have to catch up and submit the same information?
Mayor Councilman Lopez, that's correct. The application would be uniform for all
Okay,
applicants.
so that time's coming.
Yes.
If we,
Well,
if
again,
we choose to do it
if-
that
If
way.
we
if-
choose to go
if-
that
I just
Yeah.
want to clarify,
Yeah.
we decided
Yes.
Yeah, we
initially
decided
that
that
we
one.
would let that grouping stay in the budget, and we would provide an additional 50,000 for applicants now.
Correct. And part of the reason was because we didn't want to
Right.
change everything while we
And
were
if we want
midstream.
to redo it and bring everybody up in the same process, yeah, we can do it that way.
Okay.
So you'll have an opportunity to revisit.
So will have an opportunity
Right.
to read that.
And I'll
Okay.
clarify too, the organizations that are currently funded through council's budget that are under that category are the Arizona Community Foundation at 17,500, the Safe House at 7,000, the Boys and Girls Club at 10,800. We have the Lions Club flags for 4,000, the Eastern Arizona Hispanic Heritage Corporation and Scholarship Fund for 2,700.
Okay. And sometimes we have to account to the public on those funds too, so we'll talk about that on down the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
No, sir.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Mike, you look pretty good down there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 9.1, Resolution 23 dash 27. Mr. Hochul?
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This one's going to be a recommendation for the approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Safford and the Arizona Department of Revenue regarding the uniform administration, licensing, collection, and auditing of transaction privilege tax, use tax, severance tax, jet fuel excise and use tax, and rental occupancy taxes imposed by the state or cities or towns. This resolution is brought to council, or this agreement is brought to council annually. In the CCF, I've outlined quite a bit. This document is provided to us by the Arizona League of Cities and Towns. The intergovernmental agreement was negotiated with the Department of Revenue and Attorney General's Office by the City Tax Administrators Council Rulings Group, which includes the League of Arizona Cities and Towns, and with the assistance of several city attorneys and a multitude of tax and IT experts from many municipalities. Within the CCF, we have some notable changes from the 2019 IGA. I won't go through all of them because it's quite a bit. Nothing highly notable for the city of Safford. It's kind of more formality. The big thing is that this agreement will not result in any budgetary impacts on the city or town.
I'll move that we approve resolution R 23-027.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 23-27. Any discussion? Go ahead.
So in this, it does read somewhere that we will participate in this,
Correct.
that we are obligated to participate.
Correct, by state statute.
Doesn't sound like we have an option.
So we don't have an option. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure you left that part out.
We are obligated.
Okay.
All right.
No more, Mayor.
No more? So with that, I'm gonna entertain a motion entertain our vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Lee, you wanna read that?
Approval resolution number R 23-027, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Safford, Arizona, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Safford and the State of Arizona Department of Revenue for the administration, collection, audit, and licensing of transaction privilege taxes, use taxes, servants taxes, jet fuel excise, and use taxes and rental occupancy taxes imposed by the state, cities, or towns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 10-1, ordinance 23-10, short-term vacation rentals. Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and City Council to have a first read of Ordinance 23-010, amending Title V Business Licenses and Regulations by adopting Section 5.05 Vacation and Short-Term Rentals to update the City of Safford Municipal Code to comply with Arizona Revised Statutes 9-500-39. The state of Arizona has made changes to these regulations. Prohibition of these rentals is not allowed, but municipalities have flexibility in how they regulate them. Planning and Zoning Commission discussed the issue on August 21st. The commission had no issues and no public comment was received. Council had a work session with the staff on September 13th, 2023 and October 29th. Council input has been incorporated in the document you have before you. Staff is requesting a first read of Ordinance 23-010, amending Section 5.05 Vacation and Short-Term Rentals to update the City of Safford Municipal Code.
We want to start off on the discussion on this item?
I think we had discussion on this before, Mayor. I'm not quite sure
Yeah,
if you were
this
present.
this is just what staff has arrived at as the final, unless we make changes, what we're gonna present.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Councilman Lopez, and Councilman Hemphill, this Exhibit A is a compilation of staff's initial recommendation and then the input from the City Council that was subsequent to that.
And I think also, Mayor, I'm not sure, I'd have to make sure with Bill, but Bill felt that Jamie had written this well and seemed to be
Yes, sir,
behind
Mr.
it.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, short-term rentals are a quagmire for many jurisdictions, and we stumble into issues. Jamie has avoided most of those. And what you've got here is a good document that accomplishes a couple good things. It makes sure that you're collecting sales tax. It makes sure they establish an emergency point of contact. It makes sure that there's no registered sex offenders. Now, you don't go so far. Some of my jurisdictions, the statute actually lets you require them to do pesticide spraying every 2 weeks. That goes a little far, and Jamie didn't do that. This is a really good ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any discussion? Okay, I think, we'll bring this back, right, for an action item?
Yes, sir. It would be a second read and approval at the December meeting.
He's gotta read it, even though
This
she
is our
doesn't,
first reading.
even though she doesn't feel like it.
I'm holding on. This completes the first reading of ordinance ordinance 023-010, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Grant County, Arizona, amending Title V, Business License and Regulations by adopting Section 5.05, Vacation and Short-Term Rentals in the City of Safford Municipal Code in compliance with Arizona Revised Statute 9-500.39.
Thank you. Brings to item 11.1, stealth auto lease renewal. Jamie, you're back.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and City Council to approve or disapprove a renewal for the stealth auto lease of parcel 103-09037 to Mr. Steve Curtis. The original lease dated January 28th, 2019 includes 2 optional 5-year consecutive renewal terms. Mr. Curtis has notified staff that he would like to renew the lease and would like an additional 5-year renewal term. The parcel contains 2.44 acres, which is 1,286 square feet. Staff reviewed the lease and other possible uses for the property. The renewal terms for the lease states the new base rent will be based on the current market value for similar property and business in the area, but no less than 5% of the adjusted rent from the expiring agreement. Mr. Curtis is currently paying $573.68 per month. A 5% increase would be $602.36 per month. A market value was requested from a local realtor, and airport ground lease rates were considered. Prices ranged from 30 cents per square foot to $1.30 per square foot. The city manager met with Mr. Curtis to discuss the lease amount. The city attorney has drafted the First Amendment to lease agreement for your discussion, approval, or denial, and it includes a payment schedule and an additional optional 5-year renewal term. You'll see that in the table on your document. Staff is requesting discussion and approval of the First Amendment to lease agreement to renew the stealth auto lease for a term of 5 years with the option of 2 consecutive renewal terms of 5 years each.
It's bad news bears right now, so gotta wait for the train to go by.
Bad news bears.
I think that was Brewster's Million.
Was that Brewster's Millions? I'm off on
I
the
think
show.
so.
I'm glad you got
I
it.
think it was.
It's a good show.
What was it, Major League?
All right, you can finish, unless you're done.
I am done,
Okay.
sir.
Let's entertain a motion to approve this stealth auto lease. They've never been behind, they've been on time and everything, right?
Yes, sir.
All
He
right.
is paid up to date, and he is here if you have any questions
All
for
right.
him.
So moved.
We got a motion.
Steve's stuck.
Can you go back over what he was paying and what he is paying?
Yes,
Just so I'm
sir.
sure I know what you said.
His final payment of this contract would be $573.68 per month. When February 1st, his first payment of the new lease starts, it would be $678, which is a little more than the 5% minimum increase. But with the current market being very high, he met with the city manager to discuss not such a drastic increase. And so at the end of the 2028 term, it would be $1,100 per month. You'll see the yearly annual increases there.
That is quite a better number than I first heard.
Yes.
Mr. Curtis, are you okay with it?
Well, I'd like to see it all 5%.
Okay, I just-
I guess I'll live with it.
Sounds like you agreed to it, so
And there's 2 5-year options?
Yes, Mayor Couts and Councilman Lopez, he requested an additional 5-year renewal. So now there will be 2 with this agreement instead of the 1 that was remaining with the original agreement.
And that wasn't there before.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it had originally, it was 2, and then we just added that, it kind of extended the other 5 years after that.
Okay, I know you had concerns about that. I'm good, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Mike Anazola to approve the lease agreement. Need a second?
Second?
Have a second by Councilman Brad Hemphill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Professional services and agreements, interim public management finance director, Mr. Hoschel, on item 11-2.
I'll take the lead on this
You'll
one,
take that
Mayor.
lead on that one?
Yes, sir.
Manager John?
Staff is seeking finalization by the Mayor and Council of a professional services agreement with interim public management for finance officer services. The agreement is for a period of at least 3 months, costing $4,907 per week for a total cost of approximately $60,000, plus travel and lodging expenses. The agreement was enacted prior to council approval to expedite the filling of the finance officer position to ensure continuity of financial services for the city of Safford. Any further extensions of this contract will be brought back to council for their approval. On the analysis portion, the contract is presented would provide for a dedicated finance manager mentor to help train and guide current staff through an upcoming major projects within the department, including the end-of-year financial process, which we're coming very close to completing right now. That will result in the creation of the city's annual financial report. In addition, the interim financial professional will help navigate personnel transitions, grow and direct current staff and their roles, and assist in defining internal workflows based on best practices. This will help prepare the department for a smooth transition when a permanent finance officer is hired. And again, this whole piece is another part of the Cassell contract. We brought that contract directly, has them providing services on a regular basis. This is a supplement in order to transition staff to take over the department. Staff recommends approval of the contract. Contract costs will be funded by general fund salary savings and budgeted professional services appropriations from the finance department. So as of almost a month ago, we already had $20,000 in salary savings. There were funds in the budget already for professional services. So in my opinion, there's no need to do any kind of contingency use. You just let's let this ride throughout the year. More than likely, the cost of this contract will be covered by the time you get to the end of the year anyway. So I didn't see any need to move contingency funds to cover the cost.
John, my question to you is, it says you got here the total of cost of approximately 60,000, and you go plus travel and lodging. So is it going to be 60 plus?
Yes.
Is the gentleman here?
Yes, he is.
There you go. I'd like to meet you. 49.07 a week, and then plus lodging and travel. Maybe you could take me out to lunch and we can get to know each other.
Well, and I can tell you, he has been immensely helpful. We are at a point now where we almost have the full trial balance, which means we'll be able to meet with our auditors this month, which means we'll be able to put together our financial statements in a timely fashion. And so he's been extraordinarily helpful, not only in getting us there, but also in training staff that are in place right now, so that hopefully by the end of this 3-month period, we'll be in a position where we'll have a complete cycle and we can kind of go forward. My goal in the next budget cycle will be A, to continue to use Cassell for some of the back office services, and then B, we'll probably have additional contract services in case we need any advice. It won't be the IPM, okay, we need a finance director approach. It will be on an as-needed basis. So I think this really helps us get us where we need to be, and it also gets us into a position to do our financials by end of year without any hiccups.
Perfect.
I move we approve the professional service agreement.
We have a motion by the vice mayor
Second.
and a second by Councilman McGoy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
That hurt.
Huh?
That hurt.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I think for the price that we're
But we're
paying,
gonna
I
go to
think,
lunch, so.
I think the gentleman should be wearing a tie this evening.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
right.
Good time.
That's just me,
And maybe a hat.
so apologies.
I'm just kidding.
That hurt.
Listen, if you can't have fun at work, right, why go to work, right? Okay. But I would like to get to know you a little bit. So that's gonna bring us to item 12, report on operational items. Gabe, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We just wanted to give you guys an update on the Capitol. So this is going back to kind of the beginning of the year, July, and kind of some updates on where we're at and what we're trying to accomplish. Just a kind of reorientation. We kind of changed this on you guys last time to kind of reorientate you. On the top is kind of across the left to right there is the external projects, whether they're in design phase or they're in the bid award phase or in the construction phase. The bottom one kind of lists out what we're doing internally. Same area, design, bid and award, and construction. Since July timeframe, we've been able to accomplish 8 different projects that we've completed out. We'll put this in your guys' package for the meeting notes so you guys will have reference to it. If you got any questions, feel free. Kind of breaking this down into a little bit more specifics. The different 8 projects that we've actually completed this year already is there was a GIS replacement for some of the equipment that we had, some of the survey equipments. We finally got the 20th Avenue widening from construction completed as well. There was one of the Safford Unified School District's adjacent waste projects that we put on here is eliminated. That one's actually, there was some funding and matching with the schools that's actually gotten postponed and eliminated from our budgets. That project won't be going forward. We had the Pro Shop remodel. You guys will get to see some pictures of that. We've had the CH1 hangar renovation and terminal upgrades out there. That one's actually been removed and completed as well. We have the Mayock building renovations that we have some picture updates for you as well. There's a Smithwell tie-in for the reclaimed pond. That's been completed by Morgan and his team. We've also got the golf course where the staging area right there. There was some drainage issues and some of that, so we've got that one completed as well. Just kind of recognize some of the team and the efforts. This is kind of looking at the lower box of where we're doing internal constructions. That number 7 right there is the projects that we've been able to move forward. So Lance and Jason's team, they've been working pretty heavily on a lot of these projects. So we've gotten at least 7 of them moved over in the last few months. We gotten 1 moved over from the external. And then right now we got at least 13 active that are in here right now. So we got quite a few projects that are underway or soon to be started. We got some pictures of at least some of them that are going on right now. If you guys got some specific questions around these, we won't dive too much into any of these.
The city council chamber audio upgrade.
That's coming out of the manager's budget.
Yeah, but we can't hear one another or what in here?
We're gonna fix that. So we got a project underway right now with Sam and the IT guys where we're gonna upgrade a lot of the audio and video.
In here?
Yeah, they were gonna put reverb on your voice so you sound better.
Well, I know the public says we can't hear some people, but,
Mayor.
you know, I don't understand that one. I thought we were good.
Well, Mayor Councilman Lopez, if you'll notice that there was a brief period in which we were doing a full type of Teams meeting where we had audio and visual with the city attorney. That did not go well. And so the goal was to revisit the audio-visual system in the council for a variety of reasons, so that we can carry on remote meetings like we do at the Mayock now, make it seamless. And if there are vendors sometimes that need to present that are from Phoenix and want to present that way, we have it in a way that works so we don't end up keep interrupting the meetings. We can't hear each other half the time. We have to stop. So for a relatively small amount of money, we were able to get a local vendor to put together a system for us that will, instead of having, because IT has had to kind of make do with tearing down, setting up, and piecing it together. It will be a unified system. So you'll have audio, visual, you'll be able to see people remotely, and they'll be able to present documents. So the idea is to create an integrated system that works, and it makes it better even with the attorney, so he can see the votes and the conversations in the chamber.
Well, if we have anything left over, go put it up at the golf course. That's the one that's, acoustics are terrible in there.
We can add an item to the CIP projects for the
Or
upcoming
more
budget
money.
cycle, if you would
More
like.
money, I'm talking about.
But
Okay.
I know that Sam and his team's been focused on the distortion that's coming through the microphones, and so they
Good.
try to address a lot of those issues, so.
Okay, sir.
Kind of jumping over to some of the bid and awards, some of the stuff that you guys will see coming forward here in a little bit. The Hollywood Road project is in its near completion stage with Bowman. We do have a split on that one where Jason and Mike's going to be working on some of the electrical relocation right now. We got all of those ordered. There's still a pretty heavy delay in a lot of the electrical equipment, so those have been ordered for a while. They're showing up here in November, so we'll start relocating some of those power lines. We got another bid package that we'll present to you next month to kind of rehang that wire on that relocation. We also have another bid package that'll be coming up pretty soon with the Raleigh booster. It's also going to be in the works. And then
With material on that Hollywood Road, the electrical part, are we partnering with some of the other electrical entities around this corner to try, because we're so small, they don't want to sell to us, or they don't pay attention to us.
So I know that there was so working with our consultant on the electrical side of it, we've actually ordered these quite a while ago, knowing that there was going to be a delay. So there's no long lead items that we're concerned about. We're utilizing a lot of our own equipment that was in there. There was a steel pole that we already had on site that was used for another project. So we're utilizing the most that we can within there. So we're not expecting any major delays within
Okay, unless
within
a
it, so.
hurricane or something like that steals our stuff again.
It's mostly on site. We're probably in that 75 to 80% received rate, and we're waiting on a few of the minor stuff that's coming in, but
Okay,
they'll be
sir.
starting on that pretty soon.
Good.
With regards to some of the internal stuff, we do have the CBD project, sidewalk project, that we actually took that to bid. The way that we designed that was an internal project that we wound up designing. We didn't piecemeal that together, so we actually did a rebid just based on the numbers that were coming back so that we could actually fit down a little bit better within the grant parameters. So that one did go to bid, and then we're gonna rebid that one here, and that will come next month, hopefully with a bid package on that one as well. You guys have recently approved that chamber roof rebuild. That was presented last time. We got that in queue. We're working on some of the contract stuff and a few of the other projects there. Kind of jumping into some of the picture upgrades and some of the highlights. We're really close to finishing out the traffic lights on the 20th Avenue. There's, within the programming in there, it's got the video detections of any cars that are approaching. There was a processor that was bad on the one that's on golf course right now, so it goes through its full iterations and cycles. We still have to get that back, and that's gonna be a couple weeks out. They're gonna come back and reprogram that, so it'll actually more run continuous on that 20th Avenue and not cycle through on some of those minor streets. So, but other than that, we're pretty much completed with that project. This is another one right here. This is that reclaimed pond that we have down there by the reclamation plant. This one's been kind of piecemealed together by a lot of different entities. This is the one that had the Smith well tie-in for Morgan's team. They've already wind up crossing the bridge with the water tie-in. We got several of the city crews that are taking the clay out there and lining the pond itself in that bottom picture. We've also got a big turnout structure that actually helps direct the water back into the pond or overflows and emergency overflows back out into the river. We got an external group working with that one right now. That one actually went out to bid, and they just completed that one out. So we're also working on the control systems with Morgan and his team and getting the Rainbird systems for the controls. So that one's moving along as well. Another project highlight right now is the airport water tank. This is part of a dual package. This was a split bid. The first part of that was to actually build and construct a water tank for the holding of the fire water, what would be a fire suppression system out there. That tank has actually been constructed. The second part of this project is going to be the water line itself. That is from the booster pump up to there. This is the one that has multiple different lines, different sizes. So that's going to get replaced. That's going to be the the heavy hitter with about $2.7 million left in that budget to finish out that project. That bid package is currently getting worked on as well. Just another quick highlight on one of the other projects. We're underway right now with Danson. They're working on the police station renovation. These pictures that you're looking at right now is the evidence locker room. We've actually got the freezer box as well as the refrigeration unit that they can store more of their evidence locker rooms. That frame in up on the top left-hand corner picture right there is going to be a pass-through locker where there won't be access to some of the evidence in the back room. They'll be able to drop it and not have to worry about the security of the back rooms. Then on the bottom side right there is the open area in that storage room for non-refrigerated stuff. We're working on a kind of the bid package to get some of the shelving set up in there so that they can utilize a lot more of that space.
And that money's been allocated already?
That's under construction right now, correct. This is another highlight for you guys, the El Paso Park. This one's being kind of done, the same thing, pseudo, kind of a little bit inside City of Safford employees as well as some of the externals. Looking at some of this is Jason and his team, specifically Raymond and his guys. We've been in there working, if you guys have been by there, working on some of the major utilities. We've gotten the boring machine out there, we've gotten the water reclaim, the water line, some of the electrical dropped in and pulled in, and we're also currently right now working on some of the sewer. So it was neat when it was open, but now we got it buried back over. So you may be able to see a little bit of the sewer that we're working on now. So we'll get with Lance and his team. We'll start setting some of the building foundations, some of the shade structures. So that's kind of progressing as we get time and availability with some of our resources. The next one on that one will be the parking structures, some of the sidewalks that we'll actually wind up taking for external bid. This is another one of the smaller projects that we finished out. This is the Mayock renovations. This was a project that we had to go in there and replace the carpet. Another one of the pseudo projects. I know, to kind of give props to Jason, we've spent some time on the nights and weekends to come in here and paint some of this to kind of keep it within budget. We've actually expanded this project a little bit in the fact that we've added 3 different office spaces. We had a recent new hire, Mindy Marshall, that's working right now with some of our granting, some of the contracts as well. So we did an expansion of this with 3 extra office places that are in there. So if you guys get an opportunity to go out there and look at it, it's turned out really well. So this is a quick update on the golf course renovation. This is the pro shop remodel that was out there. This was another internal project by Lance and the building maintenance team that went out there. We redid all the flooring. We did all they've done the walls. They rebuilt some of the countertops. There was the left-hand picture up there. There was some drainage issues where if it rained, it was actually coming within the building. So through some recommendations through Lance, he's come up with a really good idea there where we actually wound up putting an ADA transition in there and actually wound up resectioning that big part of the concrete to keep the water shed off of there. It does look like that grading's pretty shallow in there, but there's pretty close to a foot worth of drainage in that, so we shouldn't have any concerns or issues going forward on that one. So it's another highlight here. This is out there at the landfill. This is actually looking at the transfer station itself, the transfer wall. This will allow for some of the bins for the public to use and not have to gain access to the top of the pad itself for safety issues. That bottom right-hand corner is our landfill supervisor, Chad, and that's what it looks like when you get a project that you've been waiting on for a couple years. So he was pretty happy. So they're right now pouring some of the foundations. They're getting ready to start stemming and starting putting up some of the walls right now. Just to kind of give you just a real quick synopsis of the CIP. So right now, we have a total of 50 projects within the CIP. We're close to a budget of about $29 million that are in there. Just some of the quick highlights and kind of a gut check on the expenditures and the rates. Currently, right now, we're kind of projected to spend about $9 million at the rate we're kind of going with the early stages of this. That's a pretty conservative estimate right now. We got about $4.5 million in contracts that are scheduled to start that we haven't had a whole lot of expenditures on. So we're kind of expecting that to kind of ramp up. We do have about that $3.3 million in the airport water that we're working on that, the final and the bid documents that'll be coming through pretty quick. We got $3 million in Hollywood Road that's in that final review and also working on the bidding docs that will be coming through. We also have $3 million in there for that Lebanon Loop water project. They're currently at the 60% design, and we're hoping to take that to bid as well. We have the $4 million in the parks, and that's both Discovery and El Paso. So kind of all of that put together, we're kind of expecting the CIP to finish out in that 20 to maybe low to mid 20s. So we're pretty confident that we're on pace and to finish these out at a reasonable rate. So just kind of looking at the expenditures by department. Like I said, it's still kind of early in this cycle to kind of to extract too much out of here, but with that, I'd answer any questions you guys may have or address any concerns.
Anybody have any questions for Gabe? Gabe, I appreciate it. And before we go on to the air show, we're gonna go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Cameron, get your stuff all ready to go. You got exactly 10 minutes to do item 2 and 3. Okay, Cameron, we're ready.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a recap of the Safford Air Fair that we held on October 14th. This was the first year that we've held an actual airport event since I believe the early 2000s that we have invited the public out to the airport. I wanted to highlight some of the key airport functions, educate the public a little bit. I know a lot of people drive by the airport and thinks it's a collection of warehouses or belongs to the mine. So we wanted to kind of educate the public a little bit on what we do out there. And to that end, what we ended up doing, we had a free pancake breakfast that was open to fly-in aircraft, pilots, and the public. Fly-in aircraft had about 35 aircraft that were on display, and about another 50 that flew in from Phoenix, Tucson, even as far as San Diego that came in for the event. We also did airplane rides. I'll kind of highlight that later. Those were done by the Commemorative Air Force out of Falcon Field in Mesa. Static aircraft display, as I highlighted earlier, allowed the public to walk around, talk to some of the different pilots, see some of the different operators that utilize the airport. Had an air tanker demonstration. They did water drops on the airport for the public so they could see that. Obviously, wildfire fighting is a critical mission that the airport fills. Also had some drone demonstrations from Freeport. They generously brought out their drone team and did some demos for the public. Obviously, unmanned aerial systems is an emerging technology, and it's cool to see some of our young people be exposed to some of those technologies, as well as military aircraft. Some key operators that brought aircraft out, obviously, as our home field FBO, Ponderosa Aviation brought out a lot of their aircraft, both their lead planes that they operate during wildfire that lead some of the large air tankers into some of the confined areas, smoke areas that they fly into when they're going to drop water. They also highlighted Ponderosa Aviation recently established a subsidiary, Ponderosa Air Tankers. They've acquired several of the Air Tractor 802s. You can see the yellow one there on the right-hand side of the image. They've acquired several of those aircraft, and they're actively converting them over to be wildfire fighting aircraft. They're going to operate across the southwestern United States. So we want to thank them for that. They were gracious enough to allow us to use one of their hangars for the pancake breakfast, and they also had their staff out there the entire day helping us to park airplanes and manage the crowd, and it was awesome to have. So airplane rides, this is a C-45 from the Commemorative Air Force. This is a World War II era twin-engine radial aircraft that was brought in. The Commemorative Air Force maintains several World War I and World War II era aircraft in Falcon Field. And they were generous enough to bring this aircraft out, and it operated rides throughout the day. We sold out of aircraft rides within the first 2 days of posting them online months before the event. So based on that, the Commemorative Air Force has said they will bring larger and more aircraft next year because we had some significant demand. It was extremely popular. Had a line of people that wanted to go and take rides during the day. Unfortunately, we didn't have any seats available for them. As I mentioned earlier, we had an air tanker demo. This is an aircraft from Western Pilot. Western Pilot's currently the contract holder with the BLM for single engine air tanker services at the airport here in Safford. They're based out of Buckeye, and they generously sent out one of their aircraft, no cost to the airport to do water drops during the day. It was awesome for the public to get up close and see something that normally they would only see on some of the worst days of their life, and luckily this was a great day and cool for them to be able to experience that. Military aircraft, we were able to get the Arizona National Guard to bring in a UH-60 Black Hawk. They were there all day talking to attendees, talking to kids about some of the opportunities that they get to fill here in the States, whether that's training for overseas missions or search and rescue missions as well, which the Arizona Guard does fulfill. Additionally, we did have law enforcement and medevac aircraft that came in. The helicopter landing here is from Arizona State Police. They brought in their aircraft. You can see one of the handlers from Ponderosa bringing him into the ramp. And on the left-hand side of the image, PHI, our hometown medevac operator at the airport, was on display as well, talking to folks about what they do in the community. General aviation, as I mentioned, we had several aircraft that flew in and were on display. This is a T-6 Texan that came in out of Falcon Field in Mesa. One of our frequent airport users brought that in. We also had a lot of other aircraft, as you can see, stacked down the line on the edge of the apron that came in. As I mentioned, the furthest aircraft came in from San Diego. And he came in and had his aircraft on display, which was awesome to see. Additionally, Mr. Brent Woods was out and painted a live mural on the side of our light bulb building next to the airport terminal, showing a DC-3, which historically served Safford back when we had air service with Frontier Airlines back in the 60s and 70s, as well as right behind him is an Aero Commander 500, which is one of the aircraft operated by Ponderosa, and an F-4 Phantom as well. So, quick summary, as I already mentioned, we had over 30 display aircraft, 35 airplane ride tickets were sold, free pancake breakfast. We don't have a final count on how many attended. The Lions Club generously cooked the pancake breakfast, and they also sold hamburgers as well afterwards. Approximately 2,000 attendees. We had a total of 213 aircraft operations that day, which is double the next highest day that we've had so far since July when we started tracking operations. And we had a total of $13,000 in donated sponsor funding that allowed us to put on this event. For next year, some conclusions that we came to after the event was that it was extremely popular. The citizens of Safford and surrounding areas really liked the event. It was something a little bit different from what they normally encounter. We want to explore growing it as well to include possibly putting on an air show, attracting additional military aircraft. We had some struggles with getting military aircraft in due to deployment schedules at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Bring in some additional food trucks and then additional parking as well. We actually ran out of parking during the event and had people essentially driving out, creating their own parking in the bushes, which was awesome to see. And at this time, I will stand for any questions.
Good job.
And you gonna hold it the same time of the year?
We're exploring the same time, either late October or early November of next year is the goal.
I heard a lot of good talk about it. It seemed like it was a great success. That was really good.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering off the wall stuff, when the water for fire suppression, where do they fill up out there? They
So-
use their water?
So currently they do, it's metered and they pay for it. Currently they are having some demand issues. This summer they were running continuous operations for some of the fires, and they have a tank at the airport, but it got sucked dry pretty quickly, so they're running tenders back and forth to fill those aircraft.
And I know the water tank we're building out there is mainly, that's not gonna help with that at all?
We can explore some options in the future with that as far as how we would connect to that tank. That's something we can explore, and we've discussed a little bit, but we need to explore that a little bit further.
I don't think the lagoon we're building is deep enough to dip in, so.
No, it's not, and these aircraft, they do run bucket operations, and those aircraft would be able to use the lagoon. They normally dip out of the river as long as the river has enough water. However, these aircraft are actually filled using a hose because they carry a slurry, they carry fire retardant, it's red, and it's mixed with water. So they combine that on site at the airport.
I know an air show would really be real big.
It would, and we're exploring some options. There are actually some well-known performers that are actually local from Safford. One of them actually came out, so we're exploring some options with them to try to get them to come home and be a hometown event.
Well, I thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was an awesome event and awesome to get people out to the airport. All right, with that. All right, next up, Mayor and Council, I want to provide you with an update on the National Business Aviation Association Convention and Exhibition that I attended immediately after the airfair in October. The event was October 17th through 19th in Las Vegas. I attended the event along with Danny Smith from the Graham Economic Partnership and Eric Barano with EAC. It was awesome to have that support from some business development leaders in the area. They were able to provide some critical insight. We're talking to a lot of these businesses. So some kind of event goals. We wanted to gain an insight into industry needs at our airport. Obviously, as we continue to develop the airport, we want to know what they need so that we're not working against ourselves when it comes to future development. Obviously, recruiting new businesses to locate themselves at the airport and develop relationships with industry partners. So some key takeaways. The first one I'll say is aviation businesses are interested in locating in Safford. As some of the larger airports in Phoenix and the LA area start to fill up, for example, Falcon Field currently only has about 3 acres left that they can lease on the airport. Those operators are starting to look at other lower cost options to locate their businesses in rural areas. However, there are some impediments to that. The first being they need a reliable source for aviation mechanics. They also need we need the ability to construct and lease hangars for some of those businesses. They don't necessarily want to come in and just lease raw ground and construct themselves. They want the option to come in and already have a hangar ready for them. And also we discovered that based on our location, aircraft storage and maintenance is kind of our niche due to our location. So some goals moving forward to kind of meet some of the things we found out when we were in Vegas. First of all, working with Eastern Arizona College to explore aviation mechanic program opportunities. I already had some preliminary meetings with them. They're open to the idea. They've explored some aviation programs in the past, and this kind of sits in an interesting niche for them. So we're kind of exploring further options. However, it's still a long ways out for anything to actually happen. Next, develop a plan for additional commercial hangar construction during the budget cycle in the upcoming months. Working to develop a targeted marketing plan with a focus on the business park and aircraft storage companies and maintenance companies as well. I'll highlight a little bit later on kind of my thought process with aircraft storage. And finally, issuing RFPs for land development with a goal of hangar construction. There are developers out there that will come in and build hangars with the goal of bringing in new operators. We just have to go out and actually find those individuals and find one that suits our needs. Finally, on my way back from Las Vegas on the drive back, I had the opportunity to stop in Kingman, Arizona and visit their airport. Their airport kind of embodies a lot of the things that I think our airport will fit into well in the future, and obviously some things where you can discuss with council moving forward. First of all, as you can notice in some of these images, Kingman Airport is a storage facility for airlines. They bring in airliners and store them for periods of anywhere between 6 months and several years as those aircraft are not needed. They bring them in, set up the aircraft for storage by sealing off some of the engines and windows, things of that nature, and then parking them on the airport. Kingman currently generates over $1.5 million a year in annual revenue just by parking those aircraft on the airport. And there's no required infrastructure on the airport. They just park them for the most part on the dirt out there. So it's an excellent way that they're able to make some money. Also took a look at their industrial park. They have an extremely successful industrial park on the airport as well, which was awesome to see and talk to them about some of their best practices that they've used over the past 50 to 70 years since they really started growing their airport.
Do they have to provide security?
They do. They use a combination of local off-duty law enforcement, and then they have a contractor as well that they provide security with. And that concludes my presentation.
Anybody have any questions for Cameron on the Vegas Air Conference? Cameron, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Announcement of current events. Okay, request for future agenda items.
I got kind of some public input, Mayor.
Okay, shoot it.
One citizen was wanting us to try to get the citizens to look at their fire extinguishers. Like, it's this time of year, we got the holidays coming, there's added fires. Wanted us to help promote that. I don't know how to go about that myself, but bringing it to their attention, maybe through the fire department, and or trying to get some of the vendors to recharge some of the extinguishers or sell them at a discount price if we have that annually for them to wake up and change the batteries in their smoke alarms, all that kind of stuff. Also, there was on the cemetery, they were saying, yeah, I just drive by in the front, you got it looking pretty, but not the back. But I don't know, 'cause I didn't go drive there. But what they were trying to suggest was, if I clean up my lot or we clean up our lot, can we set the bag there and they'll pick it up just like you do on the side of the road? And I said, I'll mention it to the mayor. I threw it on you, of course. And then the other one, because now, and it's a good thing, got a street light on the corner for the church up on the hill with the 3 crosses that came to the attention of the council, and there's a light put on there, which is the city's, and it's good, but they were hoping for some additional lighting, but we, of course, can't work on their property, but I don't know down in there if we have any more future plans for any lighting in there for that neighborhood. And that's all.
Okay. I do think the cemetery could use some addressing, and I don't think there's any problem with, if they want to clean up their lot and they bag it, I don't think there's anything wrong with us going in there and picking that up. I mean,
Well,
to me, I
gotta
think that's
talk
kind
to
of,
the manager about
I
that.
think that's
I
kind
don't
of our
see an issue.
job.
It should be fine.
But they, maybe we can have a day of cemetery cleanup that goes along with free dump day
Yeah.
to try to bring it up into the PA and, do it then. Make it part of our, an idea.
Okay, I have a few, how are we doing on the impact fees? Are we ready to bring that? Jason, are we ready to bring that up? You don't, you can just say, not yet. Not yet? All right, sit back
Okay.
down, but I'm gonna hunt you down on that one. Also, a while back, I talked about the electrical mainline service panels, or the electrical mainline. How the city, is in charge of hooking up the main electrical line if it's overhead, but they are not on underground. And so anytime a construction does underground, they have to supply the conduit and the copper or the aluminum to the actual meter. And I really would like for us to address that and see if the council wants to change the direction on that or not. I'm in favor of it. I think it's only it's the secondary line. I think it's I honestly think it should be part of the city's responsibility, because nobody, the homeowner does not own that line until after it passes the meter. And then so once it passes the meter, I mean, they have to have a inspection and everything else. I'm in favor of saying, you know, the contractor needs to put the infrastructure in, which is the conduit at the size that the city determines that is, but that the city can pull in their own aluminum wire or whatever they want to do, just like they do overhead. So, you understand what I'm saying by a meter loop?
I do.
Overhead, they
Yep,
run it.
I do.
Doesn't cost you a penny. Underground, completely different story. Underground's much cleaner, much crisp, and I think we need to move in that direction.
Okay.
And then Jason will work on those impact fees by the end of the year.
That's right.
Thank you. Close the regular meeting. Anybody else? Close the regular meeting and reconvene into a council work session. Work session is naming the policy for city facilities and places, facility naming. John, you want to spearhead that up?
Sure. So staff is initiating a discussion tonight and seeking council direction regarding the naming of several city locations, the result of which would be to provide official names for the following: City of Safford Regional Airport, the front lawn of City Hall, park facility at Discovery Boulevard and 8th Avenue, and park facility on 14th Avenue. Staff recommends that council initiate the process of providing official designation for these locations. Background: on Monday, June 12, 2023, City Council approved Resolution 23-16, adopting an official naming policy for the City of Safford. The purpose of the policy was to provide an official process through which city parks, facilities, and locations could receive names that were reflective of community history and culture. It is also provided for a functional naming process in cases where commemorative designation was deemed unnecessary. And so in applying the naming policy, there were obviously 4 items that I put on here, which I felt fell into 2 categories. They don't necessarily have to, it's simply the way I grouped them together. Looking at the identified locations, I thought it was reasonable to see them as 2 distinct groupings: parks to be constructed and existing facilities. In the case of the parks, it's staff recommendation that the Parks and Recreation Committee provide an advisory role in the naming process and bring their recommendation back to council for selection approval. In the case of the airport and the front lawn area of City Hall, staff recommends that internal staff work with City Council to determine if commemorative naming is appropriate, or if you would like to pursue functional naming for those 2 areas. Therefore, as you know, the position this evening is to try and kind of put the naming policy to work and address some areas, some of which have come up in previous discussions for different reasons, and some of which are simply new parks that are being constructed, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to have the Parks and Rec Committee get the community involved and get input to see what we could do on naming. Again, the idea being that these facilities begin to take on names of those who made significant contributions to the community, and try to create, you know, a cohesive kind of set of names that are representative of the community and its history. So with that, I'll turn it over to the council. Again, tonight, we're really trying to get direction, and again, council can kind of take the lead on these as well. I did attach the naming policy to the packet, so the provisions are there. So with that, I will turn it over to the council.
John, I do agree with you on using our liaison for the parks to help come away with some naming. They're out there meeting with the public, and they can come away with, you know, a couple names for different parks, and then narrow it down, and then basically come and recommend it to us. I think we should listen to them in the namings of that. I wouldn't call the new park that we're getting ready to have anything to do with the cemetery though, but and the other one I just want to make sure that is the front City Hall lawn. I've always known it, not always, but I've known it just recently. It's called Fireman's Park, and so I don't want to offend any of the firefighters as well. And so if that needs to be stayed as a Fireman's Park, we need to make it official.
And that would be on council. And I did talk to the fire chief about it, so I asked him for input as well, so he's aware that we're having this discussion.
And then that means that out of their budget would come the lawn mowing
And half will get charged to the district.
anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I agree with you all the way.
So would the direction to us be to actually start coming up with ideas? If we're gonna stay with Fireman's Park, that leaves what was the other one of existing?
The airport.
The airport.
The airport is sad.
Yeah, I would prefer,
Yeah,
as you
right.
can see, we're
Sad.
trying to go out and to try and market our airport. I prefer something
Right.
other than sad.
So we need to just start,
We needed.
come up with some thoughts.
I know that there's a terminal out there, Cameron, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a terminal out there that's a Ray Tuttle terminal, correct? Or Ray Tuttle building or something?
So, Mayor, Council, that building is owned by Jetcrafters Aviation. That's not a City of Safford property. I do know it is named after Mr. Tuttle, though.
Okay, and so those would be ones that we would need
Right.
to name, absolutely.
Isn't the Park and Recreation Committee gonna submit names?
I think
That's
that,
the way-
I think John wants to
Park.
keep the
Yeah.
city parts to us and the recreational stuff to the recreational.
Yeah, I think what I'd like is to see the department heads like Cameron kind of spearhead an effort, and we could still reach out to the public. I think some have already given us their input, and do those 2 in-house, working with council, to see if there's any kind of lineage that wants to be identified in either one of those facilities, or not. I mean, if the decision is that we don't do anything, that's also an option, right? So
No, I
again,
like the idea of naming them and making it official to where you actually, there's a name that goes with it. And, you know, those areas of concern needs to be addressed. The parks need to have some good names as well. And I think letting them run with their program is the right thing to do. And we'll run with the city stuff and program those.
So staff can bring some recommendations, try to get some public input, we'll figure out how we get the word out there a little bit and get that feedback. And then, not unlike the Parks and Rec Committee, we would bring that information back to you, and then you would.
Okay, so
review it.
John, with that, instead of the night of the meeting of that, why don't you give us a deadline to get names to you, that you can kick around with the staff as well?
Okay.
So when you're getting ready for that, you can send out an email and say, hey, council, if you have a name, could you please submit it by December 13th? You know, or, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
because then what if you guys bring us 2 names and we didn't like any of them, but you like one that Councilman Hemphill brought up? You know, it's like, and you guys just did your homework for nothing, right?
Yep.
So
No,
I
that
think
sounds
if
like a
we
good
had a
idea.
deadline as well, then you guys can throw it around and we make good points of the reason why we feel that way. Doesn't mean staff has to recommend it. You know, you guys might have better viewpoints than my own individual viewpoint, right?
And ultimately, I'm looking for your opinion, so
Absolutely.
whatever information we bring, council should be vetting it based on your opinions.
Okay. All right, I think we're good. I like the idea.
I think the parks people can handle that, make it fun, make it a contest, make it whatever. They're already, look at, they're creative. Look at that bunch.
Well, yeah, they stuck around for this entire long
Yeah.
meeting, so yeah.
They got it.
They're diehards, for
They're a
sure.
creative bunch. I'm sure they could have some fun with it, which the community would have fun with it.
Say anything now.
I know, you guys wanna speak to us? I mean, we think you guys are gonna do it right, so, you guys wanna talk, or? You're happy, yeah? We're happy with you. I'm sorry that you sat here so long. I should've brought that to the front of the meeting. I feel bad for you guys. I didn't think it was gonna go this long.
Well, if we submit names, we've done our homework, that's what we want.
Yeah, so
That's
put it
what I
back
was
on
afraid
us,
of.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Well, you know
afraid
what?
of.
The reason why I didn't get named that way is because that stupid council up there. No.
But there's also things inside the park that might get named too, you know, like the stage.
Or a
Things
backstop, Arnold's backstop.
Yeah. that'll happen.
Golden backstop.
The golden backstop.
But even that's out there, you know.
I really, I see this as another opportunity for us to bring cohesion to our
Absolutely.
community.
Absolutely.
I
Go ahead.
want, and I believe they're gonna give the key to Mr. Gaethje here soon or
That's
something.
next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Well, at that time, if it happens on Main Street, maybe we can rename Main Street for a month, Mr. Gaethje.
Or you could have a street somewhere in the city with his name on it.
Not permanently.
Not permanently. Okay, see,
Well,
we already got feedback.
Cause
There you
we,
go.
cause you told me they're somewhat assigned already, so.
Well, there is a process in the
But it-
code in terms of street naming, but I think council would be able to name a street if they wanted to as well.
Yeah,
so.
that's, okay, so it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
done, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
All those in favor?
All right.